right, welcome back. We're here going to do another video on how I do my looping, and this will be video number 3, and we'll be talking about some more AUV3 stuff and inter-app audio. Well, not so much. We're going to be talking about sampling and using some different instruments for different things. So normally I have my Loopy Pro as my AUV3 host, as we talked about in the last video. And what I'm going to do today, though, is use another one that's very, very popular. So this one here is called AUM. And I'm only going to use it for purposes of doing what's called sampling. And let me explain kind of what I want to do with this. So in Loopy, I can go ahead and add in all kinds of different other keyboards and synths like GeoShred, Noise Melody, Chameleon, Bleeze, Sample Wiz, all that kind of stuff. And I can have them all laid right across the top there. No problem at all. But that's not my workflow. I don't really care for that. I prefer to have one app that I can open that will have all my bass, all my synths, all my keys, and everything I can throw through an arpeggiator. And yeah, that's just the way I prefer to work. So what I need to do is be able to rip some sounds from some of the instruments I have. Now, one in particular is Noise by Rolly, and they've stopped supporting it, but it has such great sounds, but it's so buggy, and it crashes all the time I load it into Loopy. So I prefer not to use that. But I want to rip some of the sounds from there and put it in my sampler of choice. To explain kind of what I'm going with, the best way probably to demonstrate this is, let me pull up Thumb Jam here, some old school app. So let's pretend, for instance, I want to sample this bass plucked. First thing I'll do is I'll determine what's the lowest sound that sounds good and doesn't suck, and then what's the highest sound that I plan to get with this particular bass. So in this case, C1, that's pretty low, and it sounds all right still. And C3 sounds good to me. I like that. And what some people will do is they'll sample all like 88 keys worth of an instrument to get fidelity throughout. You know, they'll hit one, record, stop, hit another, record, stop, hit another, record, stop. And they'll basically record them doing all of that and then chop it up into samples and then put it into whatever sampler they're using. The way I kind of like to do this, the way I found works best as far as keeping semi-good fidelity in an instrument, but not having to bog it down in the memory with loading all these samples, like 88 samples of WAV files, is I found that if I go with C1, and then I do D sharp 1, and then F sharp 1, and A, that 4-note spread is usually good enough to keep decent fidelity while still kind of bringing down some of the sample size. And then I'll just start it all over again with C2, D sharp 2, F sharp 2, and then A2, right? That's kind of the way I do it, either 4-note or I may even do a 3-note, depending on, you know, if like this here probably doesn't need that many. And I can probably get away with just doing like a spread of maybe, I don't know, I could probably just do 3. I could probably just do 3 and leave it at that. But regardless, it's a manual process. It takes a long time. And then I discovered, well, I don't really have to do that. There's some other tools, like I have an Akai Force, and that has an auto sampler on it where you can kind of hook up the MIDI and let the machine actually do all the sampling for you. Well, I found a sampler that to me is the best sampler I've ever used, period. And that is Audiolayer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use AUM, and for this example, I'm going to bring up AUM. I'm going to bring up, let's bring up noise. So I'm going to go here and add audio, and I'm going to go down here and hit audio extensions, and I'm going to go down to noise melody. And like I said, this app is buggy, so when you first put it up, you can't get to the sounds very well. Sometimes you have to hit it like a couple times, but it's got some pretty cool sounds, and it's got that MIDI polyphonic expression where you can, like, you know, do whatever with your finger, and it'll do the vibrato and all that kind of cool stuff there. But I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with, like I said, ambient keys of some sort. Let's see. I like this one here. So I mean, that's kind of cool sound right there. I like that, and I figure that probably as low as maybe, well, let's just go C2 to C3 just for short demo purpose, but you would want to go probably with this kind of instrument You would probably go from like maybe C1 to C5 and sample all those and maybe do like a 3-note spread. In this case, I'm just going to do C2 to C3 just so it's timely for the video. But I want to demonstrate how it's done. All right, so I got noise loaded up and I got the instrument that I want to sample or steal. Well, not really steal because I bought all these sample packs. So now I'm going to go down to the second button in AUM and I'm going to do another audio unit, and this time I'm going to pick Audiolayer. And let me expand that up. First thing I'm going to do is go up to the routing, which is on the very top right. It's a little squiggly lines, if you will, up by the three-line hamburger menu up top there. And then up here, I'm going to go from Audiolayer on the top column and connect it to the noise on the right column. I'm sorry, the top row with the right column. So I'm going to go like so, like that. So I'm connecting or doing the MIDI routing between the Audiolayer app and noise melody, making that connection. I'm going to tap that squiggly line thing to get back here. And next we're going to do an audio layer. This is a sampler, and it does actually do auto sampling, but you can also do it with just instruments. Like for instance, I went ahead already previously before I knew about this app. I would go in and I would make instruments like this. I would do my C1, right? And then my E flat 1, F sharp 1, and then A, right? So I would sample them for as long as I think would be good. So that's 1. So this takes a long time to like record all of these and then chop them up into a sample. That's one way you can do it in AUM. But first, let's go ahead and click where it says default. And I'm just going to call this one ambient keys demo. Sounds good. And I'm going to go ahead and hit done. All right, so we got a brand new instrument. And now if you just tap anywhere in the middle, you can see that I can, on the far right, I can do what I was just talking about, where I can import each sample I've already done, I've already cut up, and do it that way. But I'm going to click record instrument. And here you can see that I can set a start root note by sliding up and down with my finger. See, like that. I'm going to stick with C2, and I'm going to end on C3. Of course, you're going to want to do probably C1 to C5 for this kind of instrument, but just for demo purposes, I just want to explain it this way, okay? Next, note stride means how many apart that you want. How many notes apart do you want? So again, before I was saying that I sometimes do 4, but three I can do as well to get even more fidelity, I guess, in that case. The velo steps is pretty cool because you can add velocity, and because it's hooked via the MIDI, it will actually go ahead and trigger the sample, let's say C2. It'll do it at maybe 20%, and then it will do another sample at maybe 50%, and then another sample at maybe 100% or whatever. And that's where the velocity comes in. So if I am playing a pressure-sensitive controller like my Launchpad MK Pro, it can take advantage of that velocity sensitivity, which is pretty sweet. Sustain means how long do you want to actually hold the note, or how long do you want it to record the note. In this case, we don't really need very long, but let me go at least to 4. Yeah, somewhere around there. And then the release means that after the note is done, so in other words, 4.2 seconds is going to hold it down, then it's going to release it, and how long until it hits the next key. So we want a little bit of a buffer there in between each one, so I'm just going to slide that up maybe to like 2 something. And that's really all I need right there. On the bottom left, you'll see a little red headphone, so if that's selected, that means you won't be able to hear the monitor and back. I'm going to click start, and you can hear it's playing that key, C2, and then it's going to go for, however many seconds, and then now it's going to go to the next one. So it's going to do, 4.2 seconds, I think, and then boom, now it's going to do the release, wait a couple seconds, record the next one, and it's only going to do, 5 samples, I think? Is that what we have here? I think it's like 5 samples, so let me wait for that. And of course, we can always normalize these later and fix them up later if we want. But this takes the work out of doing this manually, and I love it. All right, so now it comes up and it puts things in what they call zones, okay? So I'm going to bring down the keyboard, and you can hear, okay? It sampled it really well. And if you look here under the zone, so if you look at the top layer, It says ambient keys demo layer 1, then it says zone. These are the 5 zones that it mapped. So it did negative C1. So what it basically did is it said, yes, I know you want to start recording at C2. We're going to fill in the rest below it. So whatever it is below it, which is this negative C-1, I guess, up to maybe G8 or something like that, or in this case B8, it's going to fill that out for me automatically. I only said record from C2 to C3. So in this case, we can see that it went C#2 to D#2, then it went E2 to G2, G#2 to A2, and then A#2 to B8. So we can see that it recorded those there. And because I know they're in the C2 range, I'm going to scroll my little thing down here to that area. So this is the area, C2 to C3. This is where all this is sampled here. Now you notice that it leaves as soon as I lift up on it. So the blue circle on the top right, if you touch that, you can go there to level. And then from here, you can set this right here on the left, bottom right. I don't know what you call this here. The envelope filter, I think it is. So you can do this. This is basically for the release. So I let go, so touch and let go. You can see it kind of still lingers on a little bit. So you can kind of adjust that to your liking. I don't really want that much, so I'll just kind of do, there we go. So now you can see I've actually got this full layer. Now, what's cool about it is it actually went ahead, even though I didn't ask it to, it went ahead and did all the rest of the keys as well. Now you can hear there's a little bit of fidelity loss there. It's not really that great. So it's going to be better if I would have sampled every single one up to maybe C6, C5, something like that. And then it would have got the real note of each one. It would have been a lot better sounding. Currently where it's at, it's not that great. It's all right. What's cool about this as well is on the top, you can also, and we'll get into this in just a little bit, is you can also switch into some different effects for this thing as well. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But this is the basics of how you would create your first instrument, okay? And you can do pretty much whatever you want with it from there. Now, what's cool about this is I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, is what you can do is you can also set what they call, I'm trying to remember now, crossfade, I think it is. And the reason for that is with a key like we have here, I don't need it to hold. So if I hold the note, it's going to go away in just a second. So I don't need it to sustain because it's a key, it's an organ kind of sound. I just need it for one type of hit. But there are some instances where I would want, like, let's look at this one. Man, that sounds pretty nice there. Let's see what else they have here. Here's one. So for that, you would want that to sustain, okay? In other words, you wouldn't want it to go to a certain distance and then stop, because you would want to kind of hold that note. So what we can do is this, and again, I'll still do a short sample because I'll still be able to show you what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new one, and I'm going to call this one new. I'm going to hit plus instrument, call it beauty string demo. All right, let's hit this. And again, we're going to go to record instrument. And again, I'm going to keep C2 to C3, same note stride, same velocity, same sustain. Well, actually, sustain, let's bring up a little bit. Let's hold the note a little bit longer because there may be some good, it may kind of fluctuate its sound as you get into it. Maybe a few seconds in, it may kind of go pulse or something. Who knows? So let's go with a little bit longer. Let's go like 8-second hold, and then we'll do a release maybe of 4, I guess we could do, or somewhere around there. So we'll do a release of 4. It's still going to do 5 samples, but it's going to take around 1 minute. So there, it's holding it for 8 seconds because you see how it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit here and there? I want to have it that long because I want to find a part of the sample like right here, like this section which is consistent, because I want to loop that section to make it sustain. So we'll let it do its thing real quick. So that very first part of that note, I do not want to loop that, because that's a lot larger waveform than the other ones. And I don't want to do this far end either, because it's way different as well. I want to kind of find a good happy medium. All right, so let's take a look at what we can do with this. This is pretty sweet. Actually, let's close this out now that we kind of got what we want there. Let's see. Let's go to this. There we go. So what I did is tapped on the top right to be able to find it. Let's make sure we got our sample first. So if I hold it, it should only be 8 seconds and it will drop. Okay, we don't want that. We want it to sustain. So what we're going to do in this case here is we know C2. Let's see, what was it, C2? I think it was C2. Let's see. There we go. So we want C2. So we're going to go to the zone, where it says zone up here. And I'm going to pick the C1 to C2. And you'll notice when I hit C2, you'll see the waveform. So right about there to right about there. I want to loop that section. So what I'm going to do is here on the very top, you see where it says mix sum. Click on that. I'm going to say crossfade linear. And this is where this app absolutely pwns every other app that I've seen for this. I've used Chameleon Sampler, which is decent for crossfade, and I use the Akai Force, which is decent for it, but nobody matches what Audiolayer does for crossfade. You don't even notice. There's no pop, there's no click. It is absolute perfection. I'm just like blown away with how good it is. All right, so now that I had mixed linear on the very top row, I'm going to go to the second row right in the sample itself, right here where it says loop, and it says none. I'm going to go ahead and do forward. And what that means is it's going to go loop from where the point of it is there, and then it's going to loop forward back again. So I'm going to go ahead and move this back because I only want kind of a small section. Now look, when I hit C2, I'm going to hit that. Boom, right there is where it's going to start looping. So I may actually bring that in a little bit. Or actually, no, I think it's going to be where the square is. Yeah, it's where the square is. So listen to it carefully. You'll notice there's no pop and there's no, you don't even notice it. Absolute perfection. I've never seen such a good crossfade in my life in any other app. So this is a perfect crossfade that will sustain for as long as I hold the note. Very cool stuff. All right, now that we've got that one knocked out, let's go to the next layer, which is C#2. So let's hit our C#2. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to keep mix at linear, which is the very top, but we're going to go down to our loop none section right there. And again, we're going to do forward. And I want to pull this back. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling on that bottom red arrow. And I'm pulling it back to maybe about there. Because I don't want it to swell down too low in sound. I want to kind of get a good spot where the blue, where the green square and the red ends. I want to kind of get that consistent spot. And again, no pops, nothing. Perfection. I love it. I love it. All right, let's go to the next one. E2. And again, let's go ahead and do our loop, and then we'll say forward. I will bring that back a little bit right there. All right, let's test it out. Awesome. Love it. And let's go ahead and do our G#2. Again, pull it back a little bit. And then we'll do our G#2. Perfect. And then lastly, let's do one more. A#2. Set our loop again to forward. And alternate, basically what alternate means is it's going to go forward and then it's going to alternate back and then it's going to go forward. It's kind of like a ping pong. But I find that forward works the best for me, for what I like. So we're going to do that. Oh, I forgot to bring that back, didn't I? Maybe right about there. Let's try it again. Oh, baby. All right, so now we have absolute sustain. Well, what we don't have is we don't have release. Because as soon as I let go, it goes away. So let's go ahead and fix that up. Let's give it some decent release. It's not bad. Let's give it a little bit more. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Now you can do it by instrument like I'm doing here, or you can do it by its layer or by its zone as well. This is the absolute best sampler I've ever used in my life. Yep, can't even tell the difference. Pretty cool. All right, so yeah, we got all that knocked out. Everything's good there. I think we're rocking and rolling. The other thing you can do is effects. Now, I don't know where it's at on AUM, so let me do this. Let me exit out of this and just bring up the audio layer. Yeah, oh, that'll work. That's an older one I have. What you can do is you can actually add effects to it as well. So if I want to give some reverb or some delay, so if I want to give reverb, I want to give it some delay. That's pretty cool. Yeah, here's another cool thing that I want to show you. Is this Larry Sayer upright acoustic bass deal. This is from a site called Piano Book, and you can download SFX instruments and EXS24, and Audiolayer will import those as well. So what you would do in that case is you would copy the EXS file, which in this case would be the bass one I just did, which is the Larry one, this one here. And so you can see up there is the SFZ file, and then it's got all the samples included. All you got to do is just point it to the SFZ file, and then Audiolayer will do the rest, and it will actually map everything appropriately, because we see it here, right? So we see all these different zones that it already did for me automatically, and there's a heck of a lot. That doesn't need to be this many, but this is what I was talking about, where people go nuts and they sample every single key. This is an example of it. You definitely don't need that for a bass, but you know, it is what it is. But it's got great sound to it. It's different. I mean, I'll probably add some effects to it. I like it though. It's pretty cool. So anyways, that's how I would use the audio layer. So for my audio layer, I have everything done, you know, inside of like this one right here, Raise Instruments. So I got all my basses in there. So if I want a cool little electro bass, got that in there. Pretty cool stuff. I got some pretty cool keys as well. So like this one's kind of cool. Kind of like that. And it's all sampled from Noise, right? From the Noise Melody app, because it crashes all the time. So I prefer to have it be the other way. This is a really cool one. I like this one. And of course, I can always add effects to it too if I want to add a delay to it. So you can do all kinds of different cool effects with it, and you can adjust whether all that's at, and then sync it to the tap tempo and all that kind of cool stuff. I got some pads in here. I got that same beauty strings that we were just listening to. So you can see, if you look at each one of them, so if I go to the loop here, you can see that I've already set the loop point for all of these, for all of my zones. So pick any zone, you can see I've got the loop point already set for it. So I've created this instrument and I save it all in here, right? Pretty cool stuff. They got a lot of really cool sounds I've picked out. And, you know, you can basically use this, AUM to do all of that, but you're kind of restricted only to the apps that do allow it, which is pretty much most of them. The only ones that have cool sounds that I can't do is GarageBand. So GarageBand, I would have to actually do the old school method and record each one of them. But you can see here, you got bass, saxophones. This is the other sampler that does something similar to Audiolayer. And they include an arpeggiator, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I don't do that one. But yeah, mainly noise melody is my main jam. I really like using that one quite a bit. And that's how I would do it through here. But I also do some through Thumb Jam because I think Thumb Jam has some great stuff. Now, in order to use Thumb Jam for this, you actually have to bring the app up first because it's inter-app audio. And then you go bring up your AUM. And then you can add in under audio. And this time you would pick inter-app audio, which is down here. And I'm going to pick my Thumb Jam. And I'll pick the external instrument IAA one. There we go. And then I can add in my AUV3 audio layer. Yep, just like that. And what I would do again, and don't forget, is route this. So my audio layer to my Thumb Jam, like so. And then I would go pick a sound. Oops. I would go pick a sound from Thumb Jam. Maybe that bass pluck sounds pretty good. So C1 to, or C2 to C3. Let's do that. So, but this one you actually have to, you know, it's, I don't really care for inter-app audio that much, but it's all good. So again, we'd come here and I would do something like, you know, pluck bass demo, because I've already got one. And, whoops, plucked ass. Let's try that again. There we go. And new, boom, there we go. And again, we do the record instrument, pick C2 to C3, drop the sustain down considerably because we don't really need to hold out that long a note. And then release. We'll also bring down to about 1 something, 2 something. And then start. And so it does the exact same thing where the noise app came into play, but this time we're using inter-app audio and we're making our basses. So you can basically have all your instruments in one single app. That's how cool this is. And you can kind of pick and choose which sounds you like the best. And then you can go ahead and go even further and go to pianobook.com, and I believe it's all free. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's all free samples. And all instruments in either contact form, SFX, EXS24, and there's another one. I can't remember the name of it. But anyways, so yeah, let's see. Oops, let's go down to our C2. Perfect. Love it. You can see here it sounds just like it. That's so good. So good. So yeah, once I got all that business all knocked out, what I can then do, come to my loopy, and now I can go into add AUV3 and add my audio layer. Just like that. So let me go to my jazzed key. Sounds nice. Let's do that. Yeah, I like that. So let's see. So I could do something like, and I could say, well, I want it to go and record to this one, and I only want to do 2 bars. Boom, just like that. Bob's your uncle. And that's basically how I would create all this stuff. So you can hear that, if I get rid of that, you can hear that's exactly what I did here. Is that I recorded it, and I did a whole, what, 8 bars, something like that. Yeah, 8 bars. Ain't no sunshine. And then with my awesome loopy, anytime I want to record over the top of it, I can do that. And I can bring in the bass. And I can even go ahead and just decide to solo out. I don't even know what key I'm in. I'd have to pick out a key or whatever, but you get the idea. So you can basically use this for all of your instruments. And you'll also notice that that bass sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? It sounds like that plucked bass that I had in here. And I think I have that under my Arrays Instruments. Bass, pluck bass. There it is right there. So that, my friends, is how you create your own music, your own synthesizer, your own keys, as it were, your own instrument, by using different samples from wherever you want to pull them from. Either your own keyboard that you have kicking around that you want to go ahead and bring in. You can do the exact same thing. Just hook it in through AUM and then send it through to Audiolayer and let Audiolayer do its auto sample feature, and you're good to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was a little bit longer than the other one, but it was really interesting stuff. And this is just another way that I use, or another tool that I use in my looping. So don't forget to get in the loop, Acidicloop. Peace out, players.